Please, I came here to get help. My partner hurt me. I just need someone to listen.
Calm down. Turn around for me.
No, you don't understand. I was trying to leave. He followed
Hands
me
behind
here.
your back now.
Why are you doing this? I didn't do anything
Stop resisting
wrong.
and comply.
This is Jessica Foster. On February 14th, 2024, she was standing in Terminal 3 at Chicago O'Hare International Airport, seeking protection from the very people trained to help her. Instead of finding safety, she found handcuffs. "Please, just look at my face. Look at what he did to me," Jessica begged, pointing to the dark bruises spreading across her jaw. "Turn around. Put your hands behind your back," Officer Pritchard commanded. "You're not even listening to me," Jessica cried out. This devastating arrest might never have been exposed if not for multiple passengers who pulled out their phones and recorded what they witnessed, a terrified domestic violence survivor being treated like a criminal. Something that shouldn't happen. Something that reveals the dark truth about who gets protected and who gets punished. Oh my God, they're arresting her. She's asking for help and they're arresting her. A bystander whispered into their phone as they recorded the scene unfolding before them. Before we continue, let me ask you something real. Have you ever asked for help and been treated like the problem? Drop your answer in the comments. And hit that subscribe button right now, because what happens next? The moment Jessica realizes the system has failed her, the words Officer Pritchard says when he thinks no one's listening, and the one phone call that changes everything. You need to see this. It gets darker before the light breaks through. In response to what Officer Dale Pritchard would later describe as a disturbance call, airport police approached Jessica Foster at a security checkpoint and found themselves making a decision that would spark national outrage. A 29-year-old black woman with visible bruises on her face and neck stood before them, her voice shaking, her hands trembling as she clutched a one-way ticket to Portland. The evidence of violence was written across her body. "I knew this one was going to be difficult," Officer Pritchard muttered into his body camera. Officers were able to identify her as Jessica Foster, a Chicago resident fleeing a 5-year abusive relationship with her ex-partner, Louise Johnson. It was evident that Jessica's final hours in Chicago had been deeply traumatizing. "I saw the bruising around her jaw. It was dark purple, fresh. And she kept saying, 'He's here. He's watching me right now.'" She was terrified. The officer just kept telling her to calm down, like her fear was the problem, like she was the threat. The first witness recalled. "She's escalating, getting loud. We need backup," Officer Pritchard said into his radio, his body cam capturing every word. "I'm escalating. I have bruises all over my body. I came to you for help." Jessica's voice broke as tears streamed down her face. It was definitely officers feeling that Jessica was being non-compliant. It took somebody with such great insensitivity to ignore the visible injuries and the desperate pleas that they knew it had to be bias. It had to be racial profiling. The way he looked at her, it wasn't concern. It was suspicion, like she was guilty of something just by existing, just by being upset, a second witness observed. And as bystanders began recording the scene, they captured crucial evidence exposing the disturbing details of what happens when victims of color seek help. "I need you to stop resisting," Officer Pritchard said as he grabbed Jessica's arm. "I'm not resisting. I'm begging." Jessica sobbed, her body trembling. There was a denim jacket with blood on the collar. There were airline documents showing a one-way ticket purchased just hours earlier. During the incident, witnesses were also able to see a man watching from a distance, Louise Johnson, the abuser Jessica was fleeing from. He had followed her to the airport. There was this guy just standing there by the pillar, arms crossed, watching the whole thing with this smirk on his face. Like he knew exactly what was happening. Like he planned it. A third witness later testified. The lack of empathy at the scene led witnesses to believe that something was fundamentally broken in how the system responds to black women in crisis. But they didn't know how deep that failure went. As the body cam footage was sent to be examined closely by civil rights attorneys, activists made their way to the Chicago Police Department headquarters and the airport authority to demand answers and accountability. When I watched that footage, the first thing I noticed was the officer's face. He never once looked at her injuries. Never once asked, "Are you safe? Do you need medical attention?" Attorney Williams said during the press conference. She confirmed that Jessica had been living in fear for the last 5 years. While we were on the phone, I could hear her crying, telling me Louise had found out about the ticket. She said, "If I don't get on that plane, he's going to kill me. Jessica's sister, Monica Foster, testified. During the deposition, Attorney Williams pressed Officer Pritchard. "What's your training on domestic violence victims?" "Standard protocol," Officer Pritchard replied. "Did you see the bruises on Miss Foster's face?" Attorney Williams asked. I don't recall." Officer Pritchard stammered. "You don't recall? It's on your body camera. Take a minute and look at this footage. We're going to need you to explain why you arrested a woman who came to you for help." Attorney Williams said. "She was causing a scene, disturbing other passengers." Officer Pritchard insisted. "What kind of scene?" "A woman fleeing violence." Attorney Williams challenged. "She wouldn't calm down," Officer Pritchard said. "Were you aware of any prior incidents? Any history with Ms. Foster? Anything that would make you believe she was dangerous?" Attorney Williams continued. "No, but," Officer Pritchard began. "But what?" Attorney Williams interrupted. "She was agitated." Officer Pritchard finished weakly. With no reasonable justification for the arrest and mounting public pressure, investigators decided to start by examining Officer Pritchard's record at the department. As they began their review, they were not surprised to discover that Pritchard had a documented history of racially biased stops. "So you've had 3 formal complaints filed against you in the past 18 months? The internal affairs investigator asked. "Those were all dismissed," Officer Pritchard said defensively. "Dismissed due to lack of cooperation from complainants, not lack of evidence. All 3 involved black women." "Do you see a pattern here?" the investigator pressed. "I treat everyone the same," Officer Pritchard claimed. "The footage says otherwise," the investigator responded. Officer Pritchard's supervisor later told investigators that Pritchard was old school and had expressed frustration with certain types of people creating drama in the terminal. He claimed he never thought Pritchard would cross the line. "I accepted he had his views, but I couldn't predict he would act on them. It brought friction, sure, but nothing I thought would lead to this," the supervisor said. Investigators reviewed the body cam footage frame by frame. They noted Jessica's visible injuries. They noted her repeated requests for help. They noted the restraining order paperwork visible in her open bag. And most disturbingly, they noted the moment when Officer Pritchard turned to his partner and said, "Another one trying to cause problems." Investigators told attorneys that Jessica had arrived at the airport at 6:47 a.m. to catch her 9:15 a.m. flight and had proudly shown her boarding pass to the TSA agent, believing she was just moments away from freedom. That was the last moment she felt hopeful. 5 years earlier, Jessica Foster had believed in second chances and the kind of love that changes everything. She met Luis Johnson at a community fundraiser in the south side of Chicago, where he'd shown up in a crisp button-down shirt, his smile easy and disarming as he volunteered to help set up tables. "You look like you could use an extra pair of hands," he'd said, and Jessica had laughed, grateful for the help and charmed by his confidence. Luis had a way of making her feel seen. He asked about her graphic design work, remembered the small details she shared about her family, and texted her good morning before she'd even thought to reach for her phone. Their first 3 months together felt like a dream she didn't want to wake from. Luis brought her flowers on random Tuesdays, cooked elaborate dinners in his small apartment, and told her she was the most beautiful woman he'd ever known. "You're too good for this neighborhood," he'd whisper, pulling her close. "I'm going to take care of you. You'll never have to worry about anything." At the time, Jessica had thought it was romantic. She didn't recognize the possessiveness woven into his promises. The shift happened gradually, so subtly that Jessica couldn't pinpoint the exact moment when love became control. Luis started asking where she was going, who she'd be with when she'd be home. "I just worry about you, baby. Chicago's dangerous for a woman alone," he'd say, and Jessica would feel guilty for making him anxious. Then he began commenting on her clothes. "That skirt's a little short, don't you think?" And her friends, "I don't trust that girl Monica. She's always trying to get you to go out without me." Jessica found herself changing outfits before leaving the house, declining invitations, checking her phone obsessively to respond to his texts within minutes. She told herself it meant he loved her. She told herself she was lucky someone cared this much. The first time Luis hit her, it was over something so small that Jessica could barely remember what started it. She'd come home 20 minutes late from a client meeting, and Luis was already angry, pacing the living room with his jaw clenched. "You think I'm stupid? You think I don't know what you're really doing?" he'd accused, his voice rising with each word. Jessica had tried to explain, tried to show him the email confirmation of her meeting, but Luis had grabbed her wrist, twisting it until she cried out. Then his open palm connected with her cheek, the sound sharp and shocking in the quiet apartment. Jessica had stood there, frozen, her hand pressed to her burning face, unable to process what had just happened. Luis had immediately broken down, dropping to his knees, sobbing apologies into her stomach. "I'm so sorry, baby. I don't know what came over me. I just love you so much it makes me crazy. Please don't leave me. Please. I'll never do it again." And Jessica, 24 years old and terrified and still believing in the man she'd met at that fundraiser, had stayed. She convinced herself it was a one-time thing, that the stress from his job had made him snap, that love meant forgiveness. She didn't tell Monica. She didn't tell her mother. She covered the bruise with makeup and pretended everything was fine, not knowing that "I'll never do it again" was the first lie in a 5-year collection of broken promises. By the winter of 2024, Jessica had become an expert at survival. She knew which topics would set Luis off, which tone of voice would de-escalate his anger, which lies would buy her a few hours of peace. She'd learned to move quietly through their shared apartment, to make herself small, to anticipate his moods before they turned violent. But she'd also learned something else. She wanted to live. Not just exist in the spaces between Luis's explosions, but actually live, wake up without fear, laugh without permission, breathe without calculating the cost. That realization came to her one January morning as she stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, a fresh bruise blooming across her collarbone, and thought, "I'm going to die here if I don't leave." Monica had been begging Jessica to come to Portland for years. "Just get on a plane, Jess. I'll wire you money. You can stay with me and Marcus as long as you need." Her sister would plead during their brief, secret phone calls made when Luis was at work. Jessica had always said no, convinced that Luis would find her, that running would only make things worse, that she didn't deserve to be saved. But something shifted after that morning in the bathroom. She started researching flights during her lunch breaks at the coffee shop where she worked part-time, deleting her browser history immediately after. She created a new email account Luis didn't know about and used it to message Monica. "I'm ready. I need help." The planning had to be meticulous. Luis checked her phone regularly, monitored their bank account, knew her schedule down to the minute. Jessica began taking cash out in small increments, $10 here, $20 there, from the grocery money Luis gave her each week. She hid the bills inside an old tampon box under the bathroom sink, the one place Luis would never look. Over 6 weeks, she saved $340. It wasn't much, but it was enough for a one-way ticket if she booked in advance. Monica sent her sister $200 more through a prepaid Visa card mailed to Jessica's workplace. And suddenly, freedom had a price tag, $540 and the courage to walk away. Jessica bought the ticket on February 10th, using the coffee shop's computer during her shift. Flight 2847 to Portland, departing February 14th at 9:15 in the morning. Valentine's Day. The irony wasn't lost on her. Luis had a mandatory safety training that morning at the construction site where he worked. He complained about it for weeks, angry that it fell on their day. Jessica had pretended to be disappointed, had even suggested they celebrate that evening instead, all while her heart pounded with the knowledge that those 3 hours would be her window. She'd have to leave before Luis woke up, before he could stop her, before her nerve failed. She packed her escape bag over the course of 4 nights, waiting until Luis passed out from drinking before carefully folding clothes into a duffel bag she kept hidden in the back of their closet behind winter coats he never touched. 2 pairs of jeans, 5 shirts, underwear, her birth certificate and social security card, the restraining order paperwork she'd filed 2 years ago but never served, a photograph of her and Monica as children, grinning gap-toothed at the camera. Every item felt like both a weight and a lifeline. Every night she added something. Jessica whispered the same prayer. "Please let me make it. Please let this work." February 13th, the night before her planned escape, Jessica came home from her shift at the coffee shop to find Luis sitting at their small kitchen table in complete darkness. No TV flickering in the living room. No music playing from his phone. Just silence and the faint glow of streetlights filtering through the blinds, illuminating his face in harsh shadows. Jessica's stomach dropped. She knew that posture. shoulders rigid, hands clasped on the table, head tilted slightly as if listening to something only he could hear. It was the calm before the storm, the moment of eerie stillness that always preceded violence. "Hey, baby," Jessica said carefully, keeping her voice light as she set her purse on the counter. "You okay? Why are you sitting in the dark?" Luis didn't answer immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, almost conversational. "Portland's nice this time of year, I hear." Jessica's blood turned to ice. "Not too cold, not too hot. Good place to start over, maybe." He stood slowly, his chair scraping against the linoleum with a sound that made Jessica flinch. "When were you planning to tell me about your little trip, Jess?" Jessica's mind raced, trying to calculate how he'd found out. She'd been so careful. The email account, the hidden cash, the bag in the closet. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, but her voice wavered, betraying her. "Don't lie to me." Luis's hand slammed down on the table, and Jessica jumped. "I saw the confirmation email. You forgot to log out of the coffee shop computer, and your coworker, what's her name? Sarah, she's real friendly, real helpful. Showed me everything when I stopped by this afternoon." He moved toward her, and Jessica backed up until her spine hit the refrigerator. "You were going to leave me. On Valentine's Day. After everything I've done for you. After everything I've given you." "Luis, please," Jessica started, but his hand was already around her throat, squeezing just hard enough to make breathing difficult. "You think you can just walk away from me? You think you're going to get on some plane and disappear?" His face was inches from hers now, his breath hot and reeking of whiskey. "You're mine, Jessica. You've always been mine. You don't get to decide when this is over." He released her throat only to shove her backward. Jessica's head cracked against the refrigerator handle, pain exploding behind her eyes. She slid to the floor, tasting blood from where she'd bitten her tongue. Luis kicked her once in the ribs, not hard enough to break anything. He never broke bones where they'd show, and then he was walking away, grabbing his keys from the counter. "I'm going out," he said flatly. "When I come back, that bag better be unpacked, and that ticket better be canceled. You understand me?" The door slammed, leaving Jessica crumpled on the kitchen floor in the darkness. She lay there for several minutes, crying silently, her ribs aching, her head throbbing. Every part of her wanted to give up, to unpack the bag, to cancel the flight, to surrender to the inevitability of this life. But then she thought about Monica's voice on the phone. "You deserve better, Jess. You deserve to be free." And Jessica realized something profound. Luis finding out had changed nothing. She was leaving tomorrow, not because the plan was perfect, but because staying meant dying slowly, piece by piece, until there was nothing left of the woman she used to be. She pulled herself up, packed ice against her swelling jaw, and whispered into the empty apartment, "I'm getting on that plane." Jessica left the apartment at 5:30 in the morning while Luis was still passed out on the couch, an empty bottle of Jack Daniels on the floor beside him. She'd waited until his snoring settled into a deep, rhythmic pattern before moving, each step calculated and silent. The duffel bag felt impossibly heavy as she slung it over her shoulder, and she had to force herself not to look back at the man who'd consumed 5 years of her life. The Uber driver asked if she was okay when she climbed into the back seat, her hands shaking so badly she could barely enter the destination into the app. "I'm fine," Jessica lied, watching their apartment building disappear in the rearview mirror. "Just nervous about flying." O'Hare International Airport was already bustling with early morning travelers when Jessica arrived at 6:47. The terminal stretched before her like a cathedral of glass and steel, sunlight pouring through massive windows and illuminating the faces of business people, families, couples. Everyone looked so normal, so unburdened, moving through their routines without fear. Jessica envied them. She clutched her boarding pass like a talisman, the words Portland International Airport printed in neat black letters, proof that escape was real, that freedom was just 3 hours and a plane ride away. But she couldn't shake the paranoia. Every tall man in a dark jacket made her heart race. Every sudden movement in her peripheral vision made her turn, expecting to see Luis's face twisted with rage. She positioned herself near the security checkpoint in Terminal 3, her back against a pillar so no one could approach from behind, her eyes constantly scanning the crowd. He knew about the flight. He knew what time it departed. What if he'd followed her? What if he was here right now, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to drag her back? That's when Jessica spotted them, two airport police officers standing near the TSA entrance, their uniforms crisp and official, radios crackling at their shoulders. Relief flooded through her so intensely she felt lightheaded. Police meant safety. Police meant protection. Police were supposed to help people like her. She approached them quickly, her duffel bag bouncing against her hip, her free hand instinctively touching the bruise on her jaw that she tried to cover with makeup that morning. "Excuse me, officers?" Jessica's voice came out higher than she intended, strained with desperation. "I need help. I need to report. I'm trying to get away from someone dangerous." The white officer, whose name tag read Pritchard, turned to face her with an expression that wasn't quite welcoming. His eyes swept over Jessica quickly, taking in her denim jacket, her worn jeans, the duffel bag, her face. "Ma'am, what's the problem?" His tone was already clipped, impatient. "My ex-boyfriend, he's abusive. He found out about my flight, and I'm scared he followed me here." Jessica pulled out her boarding pass with trembling fingers, holding it up as if it were proof of her innocence. "I just need to get through security. I need to get on my plane. Can you help me? Please." Officer Pritchard glanced at his partner, a younger black officer who looked uncomfortable. "You have a restraining order?" Pritchard asked. "Yes, in my bag. I have the paperwork. I have everything. I can show you the bruises." Jessica started to unzip her jacket, but Pritchard held up his hand. "Ma'am, just calm down. You're creating a scene." His eyes had already made a judgment she couldn't see, but could feel. "Where's this ex-boyfriend now? Do you actually see him here?" "I don't know. That's why I need help." "So you don't see him?" It wasn't a question. It was a dismissal. Officer Pritchard's expression changed in a way Jessica couldn't quite articulate, but felt deep in her bones. It was the way his jaw tightened, the way his eyes narrowed slightly, the way he shifted his weight as if preparing for confrontation rather than conversation. Jessica had seen that look before, on the faces of store clerks who followed her through aisles, on the faces of Luis's friends who never quite believed her version of events, on the faces of people who'd already decided who she was before she'd even opened her mouth. It was the look that said, "You're the problem here. Ma'am, I need you to take a step back and lower your voice," Pritchard said, his hand moving to rest on his belt near his radio. The gesture was subtle but unmistakable, a silent assertion of authority, a warning. "I'm not yelling," Jessica said, though she realized her voice had risen in pitch, desperation making her sound frantic. "I'm trying to explain that I'm in danger. I need protection, not, why are you looking at me like that?" "Like what?" Pritchard's tone had gone cold now, professional in the way that feels like a weapon. "I'm trying to help you, but you need to cooperate. You need to calm down." "I am calm." Jessica's voice cracked, and she hated herself for it. Hated that her fear was being misread as aggression, that her trauma was being interpreted as defiance. "Please, just listen to me. My ex-boyfriend, Luis Johnson, he beat me last night when he found out I was leaving. Look at my face. Look at my neck." She pulled down the collar of her denim jacket, revealing the finger-shaped bruises Luis's hands had left on her throat. "He said he'd kill me if I try to leave. He knows I'm here. I just need to get through security. I just need help." Pritchard glanced at the bruises with an expression that conveyed skepticism rather than concern. "How do I know you didn't get those bruises somewhere else? How do I know you're telling the truth about any of this?" The question landed like a slap. Jessica stared at him, momentarily speechless. Why would I lie about being abused? What would I possibly gain from that? People lie to police all the time, ma'am. Maybe you're trying to avoid paying for something. Maybe you have warrants. Maybe you're running from the law. Pritchard crossed his arms over his chest. "You got ID on you?" "Yes, but that's not... I'm not running from the law. I'm running from an abuser." Jessica's frustration was boiling over now, the absurdity of having to defend her victimhood to the people meant to protect her. "I have a restraining order. I have documentation. I have a ticket to Portland where my sister lives. I'm trying to start over. Why won't you help me?" "You need to watch your tone," Pritchard said sharply, and Jessica realized with growing horror that her distress, the shaking in her voice, the tears welling in her eyes, the urgency in her gestures, was being cataloged as hostility. Her fear was being weaponized against her. The younger officer shifted uncomfortably beside Pritchard. "Dale, Maybe we should just escort her through security. I've got this, Rodriguez. Pritchard cut him off, his eyes never leaving Jessica's face. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you one more time to calm down and produce your identification, or this is going to become a problem. It already is a problem, Jessica whispered, her voice breaking. You're supposed to help me. That's your job, to help people like me. My job, Pritchard said slowly, deliberately, is to maintain order in this terminal. And right now, you're disrupting that order. Jessica could feel eyes turning toward her now, passengers pausing mid-stride to watch the scene unfold, their phones already rising instinctively to document whatever was happening between the distraught black woman and the white police officer. The attention made everything worse, made her feel exposed and vulnerable in a way that had nothing to do with Luis and everything to do with being seen as a threat rather than a victim. She tried to steady her breathing, tried to modulate her voice the way she'd learned to do with Luis when his anger was building, but the panic was overwhelming her ability to perform calm. Please, Jessica said, hating the way her voice wavered. I'm begging you. Just let me go through security. My flight board's in an hour. I just need to get on that plane. Ma'am, you need to calm down, Pritchard repeated, louder this time, as if he wanted the gathering crowd to hear him, to understand that he was the reasonable one, that she was the problem. You're creating a disturbance in a federal facility. If you don't produce identification and lower your voice right now, I'm going to have to detain you. Detain me? For what? For asking for help. Jessica's desperation was morphing into something sharper now, edged with the kind of anger that comes from being utterly powerless. I came to you because I thought you'd protect me. I thought. Back up to Terminal 3, Security Checkpoint B. Pritchard spoke into his radio, cutting her off mid-sentence. Got a disorderly subject refusing to comply. Female, late 20s, black, wearing a denim jacket. Appears agitated, possibly under the influence. Under the influence? Are you serious right now? Jessica's voice rose despite her best efforts to control it. I'm not on anything. I am terrified. There's a difference. Officer Rodriguez stepped forward, his expression conflicted. Ma'am, please. Just show us your ID and we can sort this out. You don't want this to get worse. But it was already worse. It was getting worse by the second. Passengers had formed a loose semicircle around them, phones held high, recording. Jessica could hear murmur conversations. What did she do? Is she trying to get through security without ID? Looks like she's having a breakdown or something. No one was asking if she needed help. No one was seeing the bruises or hearing her words. They were seeing what Pritchard wanted them to see, a disruptive woman refusing to follow instructions. And then, through the crowd, through the forest of staring faces and recording phones, Jessica saw him. Luis. He was standing near the entrance to Terminal 3, maybe 50 yards away, partially obscured by a group of travelers with rolling suitcases. But it was unmistakably him, the black jacket she'd bought him last Christmas, the Chicago White Sox cap pulled low over his eyes, the way he stood with his arms crossed over his chest, watching. Not hiding, not rushing toward her, just watching with an expression that was almost peaceful, almost satisfied, as if he'd known exactly how this would play out. He's here. Jessica breathed, her entire body going rigid with fear. Oh God, he's here. He followed me. She pointed with a shaking hand toward where Luis stood. That's him. That's my ex. Please, you have to. Ma'am, stop pointing and put your hands where I can see them. Pritchard commanded, his hand now hovering near his pepper spray. You're being erratic. You need to calm down right now. I'm trying to show you he's right there. Can't you see him? Jessica's voice had climbed to near hysteria, tears streaming down her face now, unchecked and uncontrolled. Pritchard keyed his radio again. Subject is escalating, requesting immediate backup. 2 more officers arrived within 90 seconds, their boots heavy against the polished terminal floor, their presence transforming what had been a conversation, however one-sided, into something that felt inevitable and irreversible. Jessica watched them approach with a sinking feeling in her chest, the kind of dread that comes from knowing you've already lost before the fight has truly begun. She could see Luis in her peripheral vision, still standing by the entrance, still watching with that infuriating calm, as if he were a spectator at a play he'd written himself. Ma'am, I need you to turn around and put your hands behind your back. Pritchard said, his voice carrying the flat authority of someone who'd made his decision and wouldn't be swayed by pleas or reason or desperate explanations. "No, wait, please, just check my ID. It's in my bag. Jessica Foster. You can look me up. You can call the Portland police. They know I'm coming. My sister Monica, she's expecting me. Please, just look at the restraining order. It's right here." Jessica fumbled with the zipper of her duffel bag, her hands shaking so badly she could barely grip the metal pole. "It has his name on it. Luis Johnson. It has everything you need to know that I'm telling the truth." "Put the bag down and turn around," Pritchard repeated, his patience, what little he'd had, completely exhausted. "This is your last warning. Why won't you listen to me?" Jessica's voice broke completely now, sobs making her words almost unintelligible. "I'm the victim here. He's standing right there watching this happen, and you're treating me like I'm the criminal. I came to you for help." One of the backup officers, a heavy-set white man with a graying mustache, moved behind Jessica. She felt his hand grip her upper arm, firm and unyielding. An instinct took over. She pulled away, not violently, not aggressively, just a reflexive withdrawal from unwanted touch, the kind of reaction that 5 years of abuse had hardwired in her nervous system. But in that moment, that small movement of self-preservation became the justification they needed. "She's resisting," the officer announced, and suddenly there were hands on both of her arms, pulling them behind her back, forcing her wrists together. "I'm not resisting. I'm begging." Jessica cried out as the cold metal of the handcuffs clicked into place, biting into her skin. "Please, he's going to find me now. He's going to kill me. You don't understand. This is what he wanted. This is exactly what he wanted." Pritchard's body camera captured everything. The tears streaming down Jessica's face, the purple bruise on her jaw that makeup couldn't fully conceal, the restraining order paperwork visible through the partially unzipped duffel bag, the boarding pass that had fallen to the floor with Portland printed across it. It also captured the moment when Pritchard turned to Officer Rodriguez, his voice low but not quite low enough, and said, "Another one trying to cause problems. Check my bag." Jessica pleaded as they pulled her toward the security office, her legs barely supporting her weight. "Please, just check my bag. Call my sister. Call Monica Foster in Portland. She'll tell you. She'll explain everything. You'll have a chance to explain at the station," the officer with the mustache said, not unkindly, but not sympathetically either, as if he were simply going through the motions of a process he'd completed 1,000 times before. Jessica craned her neck, searching the crowd for Luis, and found him still standing in the same spot. He wasn't smiling, but there was something in his eyes that looked like victory. He raised his hand slightly, not quite a wave, more of an acknowledgement, and then turned and walked calmly toward the exit, disappearing into the morning crowd as if he'd never been there at all. Sarah Long had been waiting for her flight to Denver when she'd pulled out her phone and started recording. A graphic designer from San Francisco, she'd initially captured the scene because it looked wrong, viscerally, obviously wrong, the way the officers surrounded the crying woman, the way they weren't listening, the way the woman kept pointing to her face and saying, "Look at me, please just look at me." Sarah had filmed for 3 minutes and 47 seconds, her hands remarkably steady despite her racing heart, capturing the moment the handcuffs clicked into place, capturing Jessica's anguished cry of, "Because I'm black, that's why you're doing this to me," capturing the cold indifference on Officer Pritchard's face as he responded with, "Ma'am, you need to calm down right now." Sarah posted the video to Twitter at 7:43 a.m. with a simple caption, "Just watched Chicago airport police arrest a woman who was begging them for help. She showed them bruises. She told them she was fleeing abuse. They handcuffed her anyway. This is what happens to black women when they ask for protection. Hashtag Justice for Jessica." Within 2 hours, the video had 15,000 retweets. Within 4 hours, it had been viewed over 1 million times. By noon, it was trending nationally, and the hashtag Justice for Jessica had been used in over 50,000 tweets. People were outraged, horrified, sharing their own stories of being dismissed by police, of being seen as threats rather than victims, of the specific ways that black women's pain is rendered invisible by a system that refuses to recognize their humanity. The Domestic Violence Action Coalition was one of the first organizations to amplify Jessica's story. Their executive director, Dr. Pamela Richardson, issued a statement that was shared across every major news platform. What happened to Jessica Foster is not an isolated incident. It is the inevitable result of a system that criminalizes Black women's survival. When we train law enforcement to see distress as aggression, when we teach them to hear cries for help as threats to public order, when we allow racial bias to override basic human compassion, we create situations where the very people who need protection the most are the ones who are punished for asking for it. By 3 p.m., the NAACP had released their own statement demanding a full investigation. The Chicago chapter of Black Lives Matter organized a protest outside O'Hare's administrative offices, with demonstrators holding signs that read "Protect Black Women" and "Listen to Survivors" and "Jessica Foster deserved better." News vans lined the airport perimeter, reporters doing live shots about the arrest that had sparked a national conversation about racial bias in policing and the treatment of domestic violence victims. The airport authority initially tried to downplay the incident. Their first statement, released at 4:15 p.m., read, "Chicago Airport Police responded appropriately to a disturbance at Terminal 3. The individual in question was detained for refusing to comply with officer instructions and creating a public safety concern. The matter is under review." The statement landed like gasoline on an already raging fire. Twitter erupted with fury. A disturbance? She was asking for help. A public safety concern? SHE was the one in danger. This is why survivors don't come forward. This is why they stay silent. By 6 p.m., facing unprecedented public pressure and threats of legal action from 3 separate civil rights organizations, the airport authority reversed course. They announced they would release the full body camera footage from Officer Pritchard and all responding officers. They placed Pritchard on administrative leave pending investigation. And in a statement that felt both necessary and insufficient, they acknowledged that the situation may have been handled differently and promised a thorough review of protocols regarding domestic violence victims seeking assistance in airport facilities. Jessica was released from custody at 1:17 a.m. on February 15th, exactly 18 hours after her arrest. No charges were filed. No apology was offered beyond a terse, "You're free to go," from a clerk who wouldn't meet her eyes. Attorney Keisha Williams from the Civil Rights Legal Defense Fund was waiting in the lobby with Monica, who'd flown in on the first available flight from Portland when she'd seen the viral video. Monica had sobbed when she saw Jessica walk through the doors, still wearing the same denim jacket, still carrying the same duffel bag, her eyes hollow with exhaustion and trauma that no amount of legal vindication could immediately erase. "I'm so sorry," Monica whispered, pulling Jessica into a fierce embrace. I'm so sorry this happened to you." Jessica couldn't speak. She just held on to her sister and cried, the kind of deep, body-shaking sobs that come from releasing 18 hours of fear and humiliation and rage. Attorney Williams gave them space, standing a respectful distance away until Jessica was ready, until she could breathe again, until she could ask the question that mattered most. "Is he still out there? Luis, did anyone arrest him?" "They picked him up this morning," Williams said gently. "The restraining order violation, plus new charges based on what happened the night before you left. He's being held without bail. You're safe, Jessica. He can't hurt you anymore." The airport rebooked Jessica's flight at no cost, a small gesture that felt both necessary and painfully insufficient given what they'd put her through. Flight 1847 to Portland, departing at 6:45 a.m. Monica insisted on flying back with her, refusing to let Jessica travel alone after everything that had happened. They sat together in the terminal, Jessica's head resting on Monica's shoulder, neither of them speaking much, just existing in the quiet relief of survival. When boarding was announced, Jessica stood on shaking legs, her boarding pass clutched in her hand, a different ticket, a different day, but the same desperate hope she'd carried into O'Hare 24 hours earlier. This time, no one stopped her. This time, the TSA agents waved her through with sympathetic nods, having seen the news, having watched the video. This time, she made it to the gate. Jessica chose a window seat. As the plane taxied down the runway, she pressed her forehead against the cold glass and watched Chicago shrink beneath her. The city where she'd met Luis, where she'd lost herself, where she'd survived 5 years of violence, where she'd been arrested for the crime of seeking help It all became smaller and smaller until it was just lights and buildings and streets that held no power over her anymore. The tears came as the plane lifted off, silent and cleansing, streaming down her face as the ground fell away and sky opened up around her. Monica squeezed her hand. "You did it, Jess. You're free." Jessica nodded, unable to speak around the emotion lodged in her throat. She was free, battered and traumatized, and carrying wounds that would take years to heal, but free. 3 years later, Jessica Foster would stand before a congressional committee advocating for the Domestic Violence Victim Protection Act, legislation that would mandate specialized training for all law enforcement officers on recognizing and responding to survivors of intimate partner violence. She would speak at universities and community centers and police academies, telling her story again and again, ensuring that no woman, no black woman, no woman of color, no woman period, would ever have to beg for protection and receive handcuffs instead. She would build a life in Portland, find love again on her own terms, and learn that survival isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning.